This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Okay. Got it. So, okay, things are moving around. Hi, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Paul. I am the Development Director at Families Together, and want to welcome you to our very first coffee and community chat. This is the first in a series of 4 virtual chats, and each one will focus on a project or initiative that Families Together is working on, and give you kind of an inside or behind the scenes glimpse at the work that we're doing. And today I am very happy to be joined by Rebecca Necessary. Rebecca is the owner of Necessary Design and a local architect. And so we're both, I think, really excited to be able to be together to talk about a project that we are really looking forward to and have spent some time on over the last several months. This is going to be to talk about our plans for a cottage court housing development. And so we want to ask that you hold your questions. We're going to chat for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for some conversation and discussion. So that's when we'll welcome you guys to ask your questions. So, and I also wanted to announce that today we will be having a special drawing at the end for your own. I don't know if you can see it, but Rebecca and I have our mugs, but we are going to do a drawing at the end for the Families Together limited edition coffee mug.
Right.
And so with that, I just want to begin by saying, Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time to join us today, and welcome to you, and ask if you could just share a little bit about yourself and how you got connected to Families Together, what appeals to you about our mission, and where you are today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to lose track of time at this point, but I joined the board. I really can't remember now. I should have looked this up, but I think it was 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
I think so.
My dear friend from childhood, Susanna Birdsong, was on your board. I think she and Lisa had worked together years ago at Habitat. And when she moved back down here from DC, she joined your board. And then as she rolled off, she recommended that I might join because she knew that I had always had a strong interest in affordable housing. Going through architecture school here at NC State, did my graduate program here. We do a lot of big, lofty design ideas, but I think that for me, I've always had a goal of partnering anything that I do that is a larger scale for-profit project with something that helps people who are not as fortunate. And so I initially joined the board just to kind of learn more about what Families Together does, their mission. I have 2 small children. And so their mission of keeping families together really appealed to me. And then understanding that they were in a phase of growth where they were looking to expand their affordable housing portfolio and do a little bit more in the way of helping to protect the affordable housing that is in our community that is disappearing quickly, really appealed to me. And so I stayed on the board. I helped them initially with the renovation of the office space at Plainview, and got to know the team. It was a great way to kind of get to know everyone, learn a bit more. And then since then, we've parlayed that into this project, which I rolled off the board to kind of help focus my efforts and my time on this specific project of the cottage court development.
Yeah. And you did a beautiful job of the redesign of our office. We all love that, and are excited to be getting back in there. Yeah.
We did that at an interesting time. We didn't realize a pandemic was coming, but
yeah, exactly.
It's still like news, so that's good.
Yeah, that's true. So what thought we could start with just kind of the basics of a cottage court, and some people are familiar, some aren't. So if you could talk a little bit about what is a cottage court
Yes.
development.
Yeah, so the cottage court development is a new type of development, and this is our preliminary site plan here on the screen. But what it is the city of Raleigh passed a text change, which is part of the unified development ordinance that the city has for all the development projects that come across their plate for permitting. And what they did is they allowed cottage court development to happen in R4, R6, R10. And what it specifically is a type of development that allows for more density on smaller parcels of land that is typically only developed for single family housing. And so it allows for the footprint of the units is small. It allows for them to be built closer together. So your setbacks are a little bit different between each of the houses. And it helps promote density while also still recognizing that for the most part, residential neighborhoods are not as open to townhome development, duplex and triplex development. Development like that is often looked down upon in a residential neighborhood. And so this allows you to develop a parcel in a neighborhood, keep a feel of having little individual homes. They're almost kind of like tiny homes, while at the same time increasing the density of a neighborhood. And so it's helping to promote the missing middle is really what they were looking to do, is to say, look, we can have these smaller footprint houses, we can put more on a parcel of land, we keep a residential feel, but we're allowing there to be more of them for hopefully a more affordable cost.
Yeah. And so the timing was really great with the change that the city council made to the UDO. And the timing was good for families together, because we actually purchased property that would make room for this kind of development. So
we purchased it with this in mind. I think that was part of it. Was when the property on Plainview came up, we said, hey, this is coming. We can't do anything yet, but we will have the land available to do it.
So talk a little bit about that, the plan, what we have. You've got the first preliminary drawing here. Now we see some renderings. I'm sure people would love to hear a little more about this plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Jen mentioned, the parcel that we have, it's a duplex, triplex, depending on how you count the units. But when we first looked at that unit, the proximity was great for the location to the Families Together offices, but also beside it, it sat in the corner of a larger tract of land. And we knew, I said, hey, this is coming. This is in the process of being approved by city council. We know it's going to get approval. We could do a cottage court development on this small section while we still maintain the duplex over here. Seems like it would fit into the neighborhood. Hopefully there wouldn't be a lot of objection to this type of development on this parcel. And so, what we've done is really try to consider the space that we're given, the relationship to the duplex, the relationship to the street, both streets, so that we can keep neighborhood and the neighbors on all sides kind of in mind as we have laid all of the parcels out on here. But the overall goal of this space is to have 10 units, and that vary in size between 2-bedroom all the way up to 4. So we have multiple styles available, and they all face inside towards a central courtyard. And the goal of the central courtyard is to be the front yard for the development. And so each parcel, like I mentioned previously, they're a little closer together, so they don't have necessarily an individual front yard and backyard, but they all share the central courtyard space. And the really nice thing about this is, it really keeps the property fairly open, because we have minimum dimensions that we have to adhere to for the distance between the size of the courtyard itself relative to the size of the parcel we're developing. And so it ends up allowing the space to still remain, have a large, nice green space in the middle. And then it provides this community atmosphere, a community environment for all of the people who are living there to have this shared front yard. And that was one of the things that, we've talked a lot about are the benefits of this aspect of community that is really formed when you develop a cottage court.
Yeah, and that I know is a big part of one of the goals that you really emphasized. And these just renderings and that are being shown on the screen are preliminary. So this is the not the final, but so could you talk about what your goals were in creating these designs and
Yes.
and how how you use them?
Yeah, so we, the goals for us as architects always is going to be to create the best space that we can for the people who are going to be living here. And I think one of the things that I've always aspired to when thinking of things like affordable housing versus for-profit housing is sometimes there's a dilution of quality of space. Everything, the focus is so much on affordability that things like natural light, skylights, windows, views, how spaces flow, how they function, sometimes falls to the wayside. And so one of our main goals was to make sure that we did not cut corners when it came to quality of space. We understand the budget constraints, and we are doing everything we can to think through things like modularity, so designing within stud cavities, typical framing dimensions, things like that, using repetitive windows so that framers don't have to constantly rethink things as they're building this. But we did not want to make these feel less than housing that the tenants will see as they're driving through neighborhoods where for-profit housing is being built. We want these to feel bright. We want them to feel airy. We firmly believe that the quality of space matters as much as having a space. And so we really wanted to give the tenants and give families together the best that we can, while also, again, keeping in mind, we understand the constraints of what we're doing here. So we do have some repetitive designs with kind of mirrored floor plans. We're repeating the same floor plan a few times within the overall development. So there's definitely some conventions and methods and means here that we're using to hopefully save some money and expedite the construction process, while at the same time making sure that we're considering all of the things that we do for our for-profit clients.
Yeah. And one of the ways you used the designs was to gather feedback from others in the community, so some key stakeholders. So could you talk a little bit about that process and what's happened there?
Yeah,
what you got from that?
Yeah, one of the most important things in a project like this, when you have multiple user groups and multiple stakeholders who are involved. So you have there's the user to think about, but obviously there are, all of the pieces that Families Together will be overseeing, whether that's the placement of the families, how do they place the families, how do they maintain the property, all of those sorts of things, as well as then the donors and the fundraisers. So we like to do what we call visioning sessions, which is basically giving the showcase so that in this instance, it was these preliminary renderings and showing it to these different user groups and these different stakeholders and presenting it with specific questions to get feedback so that we feel like in the end, we will have asked all the different players to give some feedback. Will we check all the boxes? No. That's part of the process. You kind of go into this knowing we can't check every single box, we can't please every single person, but the hope is that by having open discussions about it, you create at least some sense of everyone being on the same page, agreement about the direction. Even if someone says, well, I wouldn't do it that way, but I see what you mean. Having these open discussions really helps build the consensus needed so that there is full support moving forward. And so we held a couple of sessions. We held 3 sessions back in October. Again, this was kind of, pandemic times. We did it outside and we shared the boards and then asked specific questions. And what we did is we gave everyone sticky notes and allowed them then to write their opinions and stick it up on the board. We read it out loud and then we were able to talk through it. And it was amazing how many comments were the same. And so we were able to, pick up on things like that there was pretty much unanimous agreement that the central courtyard should have a fence for safety, so that when kids go inside, so that when kids are out there playing, parents know the kids are inside the fence and they're safe and they're not going to run out on the road. Need for picnic shelters and a gathering space is another thing. Discussion about laundry and how to handle, where should we put the laundry? Should there be some units that have it inside the houses and then shared units, shared laundry facilities for others? And then, you know, other things that came out of this, because it's not just about the kind of details of constructability and livability, but, you know, the fact that it creates a sense of community. I think everyone picked up really quickly on the fact that this type of development is really about creating a sense of community where the tenants all feel invested and they feel a part of helping each other, raise other people's kids, keep an eye on somebody's kids while I'm running an errand or cooking dinner or taking a phone call, having the bigger kids watch the little kids, and, you know, or older generations able to sit on the front porch and watch little kids play. So really creating a sense of community within this type of development. And that was another great thing, that it was really heartwarming to see that that's coming through in the renderings already.
Yeah, definitely. And so I have I think one more question, but I wanted to give everybody a heads up because we did say we would let others or want others to join this conversation. So please, if you do have a question, use you can either enter your question in the chat or use the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. If you hover, there's a reactions tab and you can raise your hand. And yeah, so please go ahead and start getting your questions formulated. And I'll ask Rebecca, what about, you know, where do we go from here? What are our next steps? What do you think the timeline will be for this?
You know, I think one thing we've learned in the pandemic is we set out goals for timelines, but there's a lot of moving targets these days. But I think, you know, internally our goals we've talked about, we've set out a budget. I think we worked together in December and did some preliminary budgeting to start beginning the process of seeking funding for the project. And so I think then behind the scenes, we are taking the feedback that we got. One of them was more of the 4-bedroom units, or flexibility of larger units. Seemed like that was one that we heard a lot of. So really looking at exactly how we are organizing the units, how many 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom units we have, and then beginning the process of detailing. Prior to that, though, we've got the survey started. So that we can get the parcel surveyed. We do have to do a subdivision between the existing duplex that we have and what will be the cottage court development proper. So, you know, a lot of behind the scenes that's not as exciting as creating these, and it's not as fun as this first process was, but important nonetheless. And so, you know, then we have to go through the process of permit documents, all of the permitting process with the city. There will still be continued back and forth with Families Together on all of these details, selection of things like color palette, siding, windows, all of those kind of fun things. And then we will break ground. I think, you know, we were originally hoping maybe this fall, but it's probably looking at this point, it will be beginning of next year. And so figuring out, you know, the next steps in that way, but that's, I think, the overall goal.
Yeah, that's great. We're excited for that day when we can break ground on this.
Yeah.
So let's see, do we have any questions so far from our audience?
Where will this be and how many square feet are each of the units?
So let's see, we'll answer, where is this? So this is on Plainview
Drive.
Plainview Drive. So it's just up the hill from the Families Together offices, if you're familiar with that. And so the location in that way is fantastic. So that's out in New Bern. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with where that is, you go out New Bern, you cross just over the Beltline, and then it's right off New Bern, which part of the location choice and one of the reasons we thought, again, buying the duplex was so great, is that the BRT, the bus rapid transit line, is going to be fully on board by 2024. So there would be easy access to public transportation They can walk from here down to New Bern, catch a BRT stop, and then head into downtown. And then the square footages actually really range. We're trying to keep the footprints small. And so the footprints of each unit are between 600 and 800 square feet. And then the one-story units that are the 2-bedroom units. And so those are about 800 square feet. But then as we begin to stack, the larger units are 1,400 to 1,600 square feet, depending on if they're 3 or 4-bedroom units. Still tweaking out all those little final details, but that's the general target.
Yeah, you want a question? Raise a hand.
Yes, Mr. and Ms. Joyner
Yeah.
family. Please
Mr.
ask your
Joyner family.
question.
I was curious about your interactions and where you stand on recruiting or dealing with developers.
Jen, do you want to talk about that?
Our interactions with developers. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but we haven't had a lot of interaction with developers yet. So
So you've
We
got
will-
land and you've got a plan.
we've got we got the land, we've got a plan, and we will be, we would be putting this out to bid for developers in the community. I think we would be wanting to look for locally based, obviously competitive pricing. One thing we would be looking for is developers that might be willing to reduce their costs for us. A developer that has a heart for the work we're doing. We are currently working with a builder on an expansion project for our emergency our short-term housing units where our offices are actually located, if you've ever been out there. And that builder, which is Bobbitt Design Build, is doing it at cost. So those are key factors for us in seeking out a builder.
I think just to kind of touch on that a little bit, I mean, in kind of theory, Families Together is the developer. And so what you're actually going to be doing is, we're seeking bids from contractors. And so not necessarily developers, because I think oftentimes developers have some type of a vested potential interest in profits at the end. And I think what we're looking for is more of a partnership with contractors who, like Jen mentioned, are interested in the mission and are willing to work with us on sourcing materials at cost, lowering their contractor's fee, things like that. So I think that really Families Together is acting as the developer, but that's a new area for us. So I know it's kind of a scary word, but in theory, this was sort of a great way to dip your toes into doing something small that felt manageable and not too scary. If that makes sense.
One of the reasons I ask, I'm on the board of a nonprofit that's coming out of Chapel Hill that is set up for really a community, say 100 units, rental units. About 75% are general, some of them affordable, some of them market rate. And the other 25% are set up for adults with autism. And it's a community structure very similar to what you're talking about. And in that context, they're looking for a developer, the nonprofit's looking for a developer that has gone through the process of doing the 5 to 7 different levels of tax incentives and stuff like that. But it sounds like y'all have gone beyond that. So that was sort of the impetus of the question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one thing I don't think we really mentioned is that our goal would be for these units to be affordable for the people who are considered lower income, below the area median income, many of which would be extremely low income. So at the earning 30% to 40% of the area median income. We also are envisioning potentially graduates of our program, people who have gone through the Families Together program and could be, live in a unit and be a really inspiring example for others. But our goal also is that these units will be affordable in perpetuity. Sorry, I had to get that out. So this is a, ongoing long-term.
Yeah.
For the community,
Appreciate it.
to benefit the community.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you though for bringing that up. Anybody else find their reaction tab or just open up your mic? We're a small enough group. I think that would be fine.
What would be the price range for these houses? Do you know?
Cost to build, or is that
For them to live there?
Oh, so our plan for the units would be that they will be rentals at this point. There's a possibility, we're thinking through, could people rent to own eventually? But at this point, they would be rental, and it would be sliding scale based on household income. And so it would be what is considered affordable for the family. If they are at 30% of the area median income, it would be what's affordable for that family. So the definition of affordable is that you pay no more than 30% of your income on your housing. So probably for families earning 30% of the area median income up to maybe around 60%. So significantly lower than the average in our community.
What is the median income now?
I believe it's, I want to say around 80,000
Okay.
in Wake County. It's of course
Pretty good.
increasing
Mhm.
That is.
pretty rapidly.
What form of governance or tenant participation, the equivalent of a homeowners association, would you have?
Well, these would be owned by families together, and as Rebecca said, they're located about 2 blocks from where our office is located. We envision having somebody living on site within a we didn't get to show the detail, but there would be a building that would be an activity or meeting room type building, and there would be 2 stories, and we would have an efficiency on the 2nd floor. So we'd have somebody who could kind of manage activities and help people connect to the community through their presence there. But we would also have our own staff who provide supportive services. So depending on where a family is in their own journey, they might have a mentor advocate that's working with them, who is like a case manager, providing support and in achieving their goals. So for whatever that might be, education, jobs, better paying jobs, increased financial stability.
I think we had talked a little bit too about some type of kind of true community buy-in, so that when you all are selecting the tenants, having, not necessarily a co-op, but some type of a co-op atmosphere where somebody potentially signs up to help with, you have tenants that sign up to help with mulching in the spring. You have tenants that help sign up for various maintenance, items, not all of it, but that there is a sense of buy-in, that being a part of this community means helping to maintain and take care of the community. And I think that's a part of this type of development that really can work to set people up potentially for the future of moving on from this to buy their own home, and be a part of a community beyond this one where things are taken care of. We don't want everything, I think, taken care of for them, was sort of what we talked about. And in the visioning sessions, we got some feedback on that, and how the buy-in and the co-op, that helping each other and helping the neighbors is really a part of being a tenant of this community.
Thank you for that question. And I think I saw one from Scott Fortenberry asking if the community room is in the current designs.
It is, can we
Katie, do you want a
pull
flashback?
the site plan? I can
It was
talk to
the
that a
first
little
of
bit.
the one before that one.
Mhm. There it is. Can you see? Yeah, I don't know if, can you see my, you can't see my cursor, can you?
Is it the bottom left rectangle?
So bottom left and top left, the plan is for one of the units will be laundry facilities, the shared laundry facilities. Again, from a financial standpoint, it's a lot more affordable to have shared laundry facilities than to put units, washer dryers in every single unit. Some units will have them, the larger units will have them, but the smaller ones would go to the shared laundry facilities. And then the other white box that you see, that's the plan for the community space. That would be a 2-story unit. So you would have a flexible community space that could be used for tutoring sessions, birthday parties, community gatherings, and then upstairs would be the efficiency apartment for someone who lives on site that kind of does maintenance. Another piece I didn't get to talk about is accessibility. And the goal here too is that we have accessible units, multiple accessible units. So the 1-story units would all be accessible because they are 1-story, veterans living, everything is on one level. And on the 2-story units, what we have done is we have located those 2 larger units in the middle, kind of closest to the parking. Those have a bedroom downstairs, and then they have other bedrooms upstairs. So the goal is that we have at least 4 units that are fully accessible, and then potentially more, just so that we are creating a space that can accommodate needs, generational needs, ADA needs, all of those types of things.
Great. Well, thank you. And I do want to respect everybody's time. We did say this would be wrapped up in 30 minutes, and we're a little past that. If there aren't any, what we can say is if you have additional questions, I think we answered the ones that have come up so far, but we will put up a slide at the end with contact information, and we encourage you to follow up with any questions. So I will wrap it up here and say, hope you will continue to attend our virtual community coffee and community chats. Our next one will be on April 5th at noon. That's 2 weeks from today. And it will be with our board member, Gwen Jackson. She will be sharing her journey from client to board member. And hope and she would be lovely for you to join. I think you'll really enjoy meeting Gwen if you haven't already. And I believe the registration link was just put in the chat, so you can click right on that and register right now. It will also be on our website. And then our future dates are on April 19th at noon, partnering to build community. And then the last one will be on May 3rd at noon, and that one will focus on closing the gap, that gap between what families are earning when they enter our program and what they need to afford housing that is, in the rocketing rental market we're in. So closing the gap, taking steps towards financial stability. Would love for you to come sign in, join us for those. And I just wanted to say, there are many ways you can support families together. I know many of you already are. Thank you so much for doing that. We do encourage you to stay informed. These chat series are one way that you can do that. You can also follow us on social media, which is at families #2 together, to keep updated on our activities. And of course, make a donation. We are in the middle of into our spring campaign, Building Hope, Growing Community. And we would we need and would welcome your support. And we also wanted to mention that we will be having a triple impact match day on April 26th. So that might be a time you'd like to make a donation if you are considering it. And then I think lastly, if we have a drum roll, I will announce the winners We have two winners of the coffee mug. Can you see it? Here we go. The Families Together logo mug with "Every Family Deserves a Home" on it. And the two winners are John Fleming and Pam Rideout. And congratulations to our winners. Thank you for attending. We will follow up with the two of you to arrange to get you your coffee mugs. Thank you again. Thank you, Rebecca, for being with us and sharing the information about the cottage court development. I hope everybody has come away. I think they will, feeling a little better informed about that project and what we have in the works. So we hope to see you on April 5th, and hope you guys have a great afternoon. Thank you
Thanks,
again.
everyone.